Zach, you were on assignment last week. We had a pretty big story around here that went viral nationally. It was everywhere. I mean, you know when it goes into the upper half of our newscast on the Mighty 1-3 and they take it out of sports hands, you know we're talking big here.
I was going to say, that led SportsCenter.
Yeah, big deal. Probably should have led sports, but we gave it to news. I gave it to news. Now I'm not so sure I made the right decision because this thing was huge. Half-court shot produces engaging story. Aaron Tobin of Rensselaer is offered an engagement ring by Steve Duckett of Queensborough during a timeout in Thursday's Siena game. She accepted his proposal, but it was a lot more than that. Pete Iorizzo wrote a column on that in yesterday's Times-Union, and he joins us this morning on Big Board Sports, as he always does on the Monday show. Good morning, Pete.
Hey, Roger. How are you? How was Orno?
Have you ever seen anything quite like this? This is like Alice in Wonderland stuff here.
Yes, that's probably a pretty good way to put it. I think probably there were 5,000 people at Times-Union Center who were amazed at the way that entire thing unfolded, because definitely nobody could have predicted that.
All right, give us how this unfolded, because that's what you wrote about. I mean, how did we end up getting to this stage between these two? Give us a little bit of beginning to middle to end.
Well, it started with Steve, who decided he was going to propose to his longtime girlfriend. He's a Siena season ticket holder. She's a Siena grad, so they go to a lot of basketball games. And he has a contact at Siena, so he decides he wants to do this on the court during a game, during a timeout. So they start kicking around some ideas for how they can make this happen. And they went through a bunch of scenarios. During one, he was going to be Bernie the St. Bernard and, give her Bernie was going to get down on one knee, and then he was going to take Bernie's head off. But then the school had some issues with, kids seeing Bernie's head come off in the middle of the game. So they nixed that one. Then there was some kind of elaborate plan to have her dressed up as a Dunkin' Donut. And Steve decided, well, it's a little weird if I'm down on one knee proposing to a donut, so let's not do that. So eventually they settle on, we're going to have her be a participant in this contest where you get to try a half-court shot to win a $500 Dunkin' Donuts gift card. And she'll miss the shot, and then he's going to come out. He's dressed as Cuppy, the Dunkin' Donuts mascot, and take off the mascot costume and propose to her. And so they plan out this whole thing, and Steve says beforehand, he's joking with Mark Bardak at Ed Louis Associates, who helped put this whole thing together. Mark says, we've got this plan down to a science. What could possibly go wrong besides maybe her making the shot?
Right.
So nobody had ever considered the possibility that she was going to make the shot. Erin, by her own admission, she said she went out to practice about a week earlier. She said she took two shots. One of them hit the foul line. The other one was wide by a country mile. And she said, that's it. I'm not even going to bother practicing anymore. I've got no chance to make this shot. And she said her brother teased her and said, I'll give you $50 if you just hit the rim. So she goes out there with zero form whatsoever. Really just heaves it. And of course, makes the shot. And Steve says at that point, he's just in disbelief. One, because he can't believe she made the shot. And two, he can't believe this thing that he had so carefully orchestrated has all gone to pot, because now she's running around celebrating. He can't see her because he's got no peripheral vision out of that mascot costume. And meanwhile, this whole thing has got to get over with in the next 20 seconds or so, because the players have to come back on the court and continue playing the game. But of course, they did manage to corral her and get everybody together. And of course, she said yes. And now they're enjoying their 15 minutes of fame, I think. She said the surrealist thing for her so far has been when she went onto the TMZ website, and they had already gone on her Facebook page and taken some of her pictures off of there. There's pictures of her and her fiancé all over the TMZ website.
Zach, you saw this?
I was watching SportsCenter in another state,
right?
And this was like leading SportsCenter. How could it not? It's like the ultimate human interest thing. Not only the half-court shot, but the engagement. I mean, I'm not sure that if it lasted another 3 or 4 minutes, that the whole game wouldn't have stopped. I mean, why not? This was really cool.
and of course,
the funny thing about SportsCenter is Steve said that night about 10 o'clock they get a phone call from ESPN, says, "Hey, do you guys want to come on live on SportsCenter tonight?" Yeah. He said, "Hey, we went out to celebrating. I was not going on SportsCenter after having a few drinks." So that never came to
Wow,
pass.
so they turned down Sports Center.
Well, yeah, because they had, they did celebrate with
100 cocktails.
With 100 cocktails, and
I told Steve, I don't think anybody would judge you for not being in a condition to go on live television at that point.
Hey, listen, if we had Uber around here, that would have been the ticket, right? Give Uber a call, drive me to Connecticut, and put me on Sports Center, and by the time I get there, I'll be good enough to go on. That was some story. Those are you don't plan for those kinds of stories. And the thing is, while all this is going on, right? Jimmy Patso's in a timeout with his team. He has no idea what's going on.
No, he said after the game, he said, I didn't see it. He said, I just heard the crowd go crazy. And I think he said that was like the loudest I've ever heard on Unit Center. And everyone was wondering what just happened.
He thought the governor or the president was just showing up at the game or something. He was like, I don't know what's going on here, but that was all good. And we just quick mention, Pete, that this week is kind of interesting for Siena. They go on the road to play Monmouth, the clear dominant number one team in the MAC, and UAlbany goes on the road to play Vermont Wednesday night, the clear dominant number one team in the America East.
Yeah, two interesting games for both teams. I think Siena's certainly hoping for a better showing when they go down there and see Monmouth now for a second time. But for both teams, really, I think the whole key is to set themselves, even if UAlbany is to lose at Vermont and Siena is to lose at Monmouth, I think they both want to set themselves up so they don't have to play either one of those two teams in the tournament semifinals. I think Siena wants to make sure that they're on the other side of the bracket for Monmouth, and probably the same thing for UAlbany at Vermont, right? You'd rather get one shot at them at the title game than have to go through them in the semifinals.
No doubt. Play them in the championship game and take your shot on a one-game winner-take-all that you might be able to pull it off. Certainly UAlbany has done that before in Burlington. Pete Iorizzo, keep up the good work. Nice column, half-court shot, produces engaging story. One of the top stories of the week, last week here in the Capital Region. Pete Iorizzo, sports editor for the Times-Union and columnist. Pete, thank you. Have a good week. We'll talk to you this time next week.
Okay, thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.